Hi guys, how are you today? I'm doing great. I'm someplace really hot and sticky, and some people might not love this weather, but I love it. Now, I'll try to get our information in kind of quickly today because it seems like we might get a little bit of a rain shower. But we're going to continue our unit on habitats. Now, Ms. G started this unit by taking you guys to the woodland habitat and the pond habitat. Both super cool habitats. I learned a lot on Miss G's field trips, but I decided I wanted to take us someplace a little bit farther away. So here we are. Now, can you guess, just by looking at the habitat behind me, what habitat we might be in right now? You might need a few more clues, but you can observe or notice there's a lot of plant life here, a lot of vegetation, both close to the ground and up high. We've got a lot of plants, a lot of different types of trees. It's very, very green, very lush, very thick and dense. The plants and trees are really close together. That's what dense is, when things are tightly packed together. Definitely someplace, it'd be hard to hike here. You'd have to really do a lot of like under and over, ducking under, climbing over in order to navigate this type of habitat. Now, it looks like the woods in a way, except there's definitely a lot more vegetation than we would find in just a regular woods like near our home someplace. The other clue I want to give you about this habitat is it rains, and it rains a lot, like excessive amounts of rain here in this habitat. Does that help? Well, if you guessed the rainforest, you're right. We're in the rainforest habitat. So rainforests definitely get excessive amounts of rain, and they have excessive amounts of plant life. It's a pretty cool place, at least in my opinion. Now, we're going to learn more about rainforests, and before we do that, I do want to say that there are two different types of rainforests, and they're very, very different in their climate, or their weather, their location on the planet, and also their animal and plant life. And when we're talking about habitats, remember, it's where animals, plants, even humans, occur naturally. It's where they belong, right? And habitats share common weather or climates. So just keep those things in mind as we move forward, right? So we're going to learn about habitat or about rainforests, but we are going to focus primarily on tropical rainforests, the hot, steamy rainforests, because those are my favorite, and I get to decide. So I want you to think a little bit more before we begin, just by looking at the habitat behind me and knowing there's a lot of rain here. The vegetation is very thick and dense, and there's a lot of it. Think about who might live here. If anyone, do you think any humans actually live in this habitat? And I don't mean just visit, but do you think they make their homes here? That might be really challenging to do. What type of animal species do you think live here? Do you think all of our animal groups are represented in a habitat like this? Do mammals live here? What about reptiles? What about amphibians and birds? And don't forget fish. Do you think fish might live in this habitat? I don't know, but we're going to find out for sure. Now, we've answered the who and the what. What about the where? We've talked about that it gets a lot of rain, this type of habitat, the tropical rainforest, and it's very hot and sticky. So where on our planet might we find rainforests? Do you think rainforests would be located closer to the equator? North, far north of the equator? Far south of the equator? Use your prior knowledge to make an educated guess about that, because I think you could know it. We've answered the who, the what, the where, the why. Why do you think it's important that we study habitats? Why do you think it's important we learn specific information about each habitat? Think about that for a minute, because it is important. And some of the things we're going to learn today, I hope you remember for a long time to come. All right, so we've got the who, the what, the where, the why, oh, the when. When is a good time to start learning about rainforest habitats? Right now. All right, let's go. Come on. Hi guys. Let's continue our discussion about these incredible rainforest habitats. You're going to see here on the left is the temperate rainforest, and then over here on the right is the tropical rainforest. Now, what do you notice or observe about both of these pictures? What might be similar? What might be different? Because they definitely have some similarities, but they also have some great differences as well. But both look like incredibly cool places to visit. Now, temperate rainforests are found in cool zones. So they're going to be farther away from our imaginary line, the equator. If you remember, the equator is that imaginary line that runs through the middle of our planet, or around the middle of our planet, I should say, and it separates or divides our planet into half, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So if you look, the blue, that royal blue color right over here, they're showing you, that's the kind of the key that they're using to indicate where the temperate rainforests are. So if you look on this map, you're going to see that the temperate rainforests are farther north, and farther south from the equator. And it looks like there is a temperate rainforest on North America. That's the continent we live on. South America, there's a temperate rainforest, more than one, in Europe, in Asia, and in Australia. Pretty interesting. Now, the one thing I don't love about this map, guys, is they forgot the continent of Antarctica, so I'm going to draw it in right down there. All right, so remember, temperate rainforests are cooler and they're farther away from the equator. The vegetation or the tree and plant life in a temperate rainforest look like this. They're trees that are called conifers. And in this box right over here on the lower right-hand side, that's what a conifer looks like up close. Those are trees that have needles. They look like those pins. And they also produce pine cones. So we see some of those around the playground at school. But that's a conifer tree. Sometimes if you celebrate Christmas, you might call it, oh, it looks like a Christmas tree. And you'll be right. They're trees that have needles. Now, these are some of the animals found in a temperate rainforest. So you have animals like deer and different types of bears. Very different from the animals you're going to see in a tropical rainforest. Now here is a map of where tropical rainforests can be found. And as you can see, they're either found on or very close to that imaginary line called the equator. So again, they did their imaginary line in red, just like I had. There's the equator. And again, that divides our planet into the northern and southern hemispheres. And we talk about the closer we are to the equator, the closer you live or visit or vacation to the equator, the warmer the weather is going to be. So you can see that the tropical rainforests have been circled and colored in green. And they are, and I'm circling them now too. You can see that as I circle them, at least portions of most of them are actually running right through that equator. Not all, but many. And they're much closer to the equator than the temperate rainforests. And on this map, I actually did take the little light blue marker color, and I went ahead and put those areas of temperate rainforests on this map as well. So where you see light blue, that would indicate or represent the temperate rainforests. So you can see the difference in their location. So remember, rainforests are found on or near the equator. Now here's some vocabulary you'll want to know when you're talking about rainforests. The first word is tropical. And that, when we're talking about tropical climates or tropical places to visit, we're talking about hot and humid climate and weather. Someplace I'd really like to visit. The next word is dense. And that's when vegetation or something is closely packed together. A synonym for that would be crowded. So when we're in line and everybody's bunched together, we could say we're all dense, where it's like kind of like dense. It's a little bit of a different use, but that gives you an idea where you just kind of want some space, but there isn't any because everybody's so close together, right? So when trees are dense or vegetation is dense, it's all packedly tight together and very close together. The next word is humid, and that means steamy or sticky. Think about if you walk into the bathroom when the shower's been running with hot water. It gets very steamy in there. The minute you walk in, you're like, oh, it's so hot, you get sticky. That's what humid is. The next word is vegetation, and you've heard me use that a few times already. And that's plants and trees in an area. The next word, you guys should know for sure, habitat. That's the natural home for animals and plants. And then this last word is deforestation. And that means clearing and removing trees from the forest, which in this case isn't always a positive thing because it can be very destructive to many things that live and many people that live in the rainforest. And we'll see a picture of that later on. All right, guys, here are some pictures I pulled that represent tropical rainforests. So you can see exactly what we were just talking about using our vocabulary words, how thick and dense the trees are. I mean, just look at this picture here up in the upper right. You can't even really see the ground other than this opening over here. They're so tightly packed together. Definitely very green, very lush. I wonder why rainforests are so green and lush like this. Can you think of a reason why? Remember, rainforests. We talked about that, and it's a compound word. Rainforests are forest or wooded areas that get excessive amounts of rain. The Amazon rainforest is the largest rainforest on our planet, and it's located on the continent of South America. Believe it or not, this rainforest is about the same size as our entire country. So here's our country, the United States of America. Let's see, New York's right up there. And the Amazon rainforest is about the same size as our country. So if I move it right over here, on top of that area, you can see that it fits nicely into the area that makes up the Amazon rainforest. So that gives you an idea just how massive or huge the Amazon rainforest is. Our whole country could fit inside of it. Pretty fascinating. And also, the Amazon contains the second longest river in the world, and it's called the Amazon River. So it's the second largest river in the world. And look at how twisty-turny it is. It's absolutely fascinating. There's a lot of wildlife, animal life that lives in that river. And we'll take a look at some of those pictures in just a few pages. Now, in a rainforest, like we said, it's a rainforest, so it's going to rain an excessive amount, like I said. And in the Amazon rainforest, it rains really frequently. In the Amazon, it rains between 120 and 120 to 400 inches each year. That's equal to 10 to 33 feet of rain. Here in Rochester, we only get an average of 33 inches a year, or a little over 2.5 feet of rain each year. So the Amazon gets between 5 and like, 13 more times rain than we do. That's incredible. Now, how do we, as humans, benefit from tropical rainforests? In other words, what do rainforests give or provide for us? Well, in the case of the Amazon rainforest, and many other rainforests too, they give us fruits such as bananas, pineapples, lemons, limes, tangerines, and avocados. They also give us oils. Medicines are made from many of the plants found in the rainforests. And these are really important medicines because they help cure specific diseases. They also provide us with nuts from various nut trees. Trees provide us with paper and rubber. There's actually a tree called a rubber tree. And this picture here on the left shows how they extract or take out of the rubber from the tree. Now, over here on the bottom right, I included a picture of maple sugaring and how they tap trees to get the sap out of the trees. And that was the field trip we were supposed to go on that we weren't able to. But there's a few similarities, wouldn't you say, of how things are being extracted from trees? So this gives us an idea of just how valuable trees are for many reasons, but this is one of them. Now, I included a few pictures of products or things that we use sometimes every day that are made from rubber. Some of our favorite stretchy bands are rubber bracelets, our cool Jordans, the sole here made from rubber. And then, of course, bouncy balls. Where would we be without bouncy balls? So fun. I love bouncy balls. And I've got actually one of my rubber bracelets on today too. So I'm wearing products that came from rubber trees. Pretty fascinating. And of course, trees provide us with oxygen through a process called photosynthesis, which you'll learn a lot more in science class coming up in the next few years. And we need oxygen to survive. We learned about that when we studied the plant life cycle. Trees give off oxygen, which we need to breathe in order to survive. So we work together with trees and plants. It's kind of like symbiotic. They need us, we need them kind of thing. So it's pretty neat. And the Amazon actually provides the planet with 20% of its oxygen. That's a huge number, guys. So we need trees in order to survive. Now, in the tropical rainforest, there's 4 levels that they consider being present in the rainforest. There's the emergent layer, which is the very top layer of the rainforest. Then there's the canopy layer, and that sits right below that top layer. And in that layer, the leaves and trees and branches kind of make a roof or an umbrella that keeps out most of the sun and the wind and the rain from the lower levels. The 3rd level down is called the understory. And only a little bit of light gets through to this level. It's very dim, you can't see very well, and there isn't very much wind. And the plants there are much shorter. The trees and the plants there are younger and much shorter than they would be in those other 2 layers. And then the last layer is the forest floor, or the ground. And it's actually very, very dark on the Amazon rainforest floor. It's very dark, it's very humid because there's no breeze down there at all, no wind, and things are very still. So when we look over here on this right-hand side, you're going to see these trees, the tallest of the tall trees. That's the emergent layer. And you can see they're far above the rest of the trees below them. Those are the trees that have managed to grow even taller. So they're actually getting the most sunlight, but they're also being impacted the most by the wind and the rain. Now the picture down below is the canopy layer. And you can see how it's very dense, right? All those trees are packed in tightly. And you can see how it does kind of form an umbrella. It's shading the rest of the trees and vegetation down below. So that's called the canopy layer. In the emergent layer, guys, that very, very top layer, they're the tallest of trees. They get the most sunlight, very, very high temperatures, but also really high winds. And in this layer, many birds, bats, butterflies, and monkeys live here. The next layer down, that canopy layer, that acts as the roof, like I said, or the umbrella. And it does block most of the sunlight for the levels below, which then you start to think, well, we know plants need sun to survive. We also know plants and animals adapt to their environment. So how does it all work? They manage to make it work. They adapt to their surroundings, and they're meant to grow with little or no sunlight. But in this level, the canopy level, they have lots of leaves, fruit, seeds, and flowers, and most of the animal life in the rainforest actually lives at this level. So this is where you're going to find the most reptiles, amphibians, mammals, insects. The majority of them live at this level, which is kind of strange, right? That all of these animals are living so high above the ground, but it's true. Now the understory is the third level down, and little light reaches this level. You're going to find more shrubs and little bushes and young trees that are just starting to grow. There's a lot of climbing plants and vines, and you're going to see that a lot of the animals at this level, like our little chameleon friend over here, use camouflage to protect themselves. On the forest floor, and remember, floor is equivalent or synonymous with ground, there's very, very little light. It's very dark and on this level because the understory and the canopy are preventing light, the sunlight, from reaching the forest floor. There's not that many plants as compared to the higher levels. And this is where your larger animals live, like your jaguars, your giant armadillos, and giant anteaters. Those all live here on the forest floor. Now, who lives in the Amazon rainforest? We want to know. Well, millions of people actually live in the Amazon, including over 400 indigenous or native tribes. That means they've been there all along. And it's believed that there are at least 50 tribes that have never made contact with the outside world. That means the world we live in today with telephones and cars and all roadways, all of those types of things, they've never been a part of that. They never ever leave the jungle. And I forgot to tell you guys that jungle is synonymous with rainforest. So if you hear that an animal lives in the jungle, that means they live in the rainforest. I forgot to point that out earlier. And well, within these tribal cultures that live in the Amazon, there are over 180 languages being spoken. It's really fascinating. So if you went to visit, oh my goodness, and you wanted to have a conversation with everyone that lived there, you'd have to learn over 180 languages. Wow. Now, what animals live in the Amazon rainforest? Well, there's over 3,000 types of fish. 3,000! Wow, and this guy over here, he's a piranha. Look at how sharp his teeth are. Next, there's over 430 different types of mammals. Oh, so cool. Oh my gosh, and there's 1,300 types of birds. Different birds that live in the Amazon. 1,300. Well, I thought that number was big, but check out how many insects live in the Amazon. 2.5 million different insects or species live in the Amazon. Wow, that's crazy. So at this point in time, guys, over half of the world's animal and plant species actually live in rainforests. It's a great place to visit if you love animals. And here are some pictures of some of the animals that live in rainforests. And these are particular to the Amazon rainforest, but you do find many of them in other rainforests. So I'll give you just a second to take a look at those. Really fascinating. Here are a few more. Some of these are a little freaky to me. I'm sure you can guess which ones. But look at this guy. Look at that ant. He's called a leaf cutter ant. And I'll have to attach a video or show you guys a video. These ants are so incredibly strong and they move at such a quick pace. And it is their job to go out into the jungle, cut out the leaves with their teeth, and then return back to their home. And they turn them into food. This guy over here is so fascinating. It's the pink river dolphin. Never seen that before. So fascinating. And of course, I don't really want to talk about this guy down here. He's not my favorite. Here are a few others. Now, who would have thought that sharks lived in the Amazon? But this is a bull shark, and he swims in fresh water, and he can be found in the rivers in the Amazon. So primarily in the Amazon River, but there are many other rivers as well. Just look at how some of these animals are choosing to use their body covering to camouflage themselves. But these guys do even a better job at camouflage. Check them out. What do you notice about the coloring of these animals that they're using to stay camouflaged? This page isn't as colorful as the animals on the previous pages. They're really using the greens and the browns to blend into the vegetation. It's very, very cool. Now here is a picture of deforestation. And this is the destruction or the cutting down or burning of forests, which is a huge problem for our planet. Because as we talked about, we need trees to provide oxygen. And we learned about all the products that we can get and benefit from the rainforest. And if humans keep destroying the rainforest, those things won't exist anymore. Now, each year, 54,000 square miles of rainforest is cut down. And that's the size of our state, right here. So each year, that's how much rainforest is being lost to deforestation. And when humans decide to cut down or burn down trees to make room for farms and roadways and just to take the products out of the rainforest, what do you think? What problems might that cause? Can you think of any? Well, what about all the people that live in the rainforest? What is that doing to them? How is that impacting them? What about all the animals that make their home in the rainforest? When we're cutting down and removing their habitat, how does that impact them? A huge problem for animals, you guys, is extinction. And we talked about extinction means to not be anymore, right? To no longer exist. So each year there are a pretty big number, a variety of animals, insects that are being destroyed based on deforestation, and they're becoming extinct, which is something we don't want for our planet. So it's one of those things, a lot of people really work hard to save the rainforests. All right, guys, your homework is write 4 facts that you learned about rainforests. Remember, use capital letters, complete sentences, and punctuation in your sentences. Miss and love you.